Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Plum Wild Recap. I'm Nathan Waddell, driver of the number 5 car in the iRacing World of Outlaws Buttkicker Pro Series, and that is Damian Kiefer to my right with the mustache and the spiked up hair.
The mad scientist.
Yeah, you really are looking like a mad scientist over there. This spiked up hair is kind of new. The mustache is kind of new. I think I posted that I had been talking to Hauser on FaceTime, and it was really just a picture of you because y'all look so similar. And now it seems like you're really wanting to stray away from that image.
Well, I think the stash is the classic D Keef look.
Yeah,
Not necessarily the hair. The hair is just, it's been a long day. We're
yeah.
here. It's time to roll, but it's stash season and we were off the stash season for a while. We got on the dark side. We started listening to the girlfriend, and we had to get back to our roots and prove to ourselves that we are the mustache man.
The mustache man. Oh, brother. Well, before we talk about how Knoxville went, I want to bring up the fact that you got to race your real modified at Eldora last weekend. That was really cool to see, and must have been really fucking cool to do after the thousands and thousands of laps I'm sure you've put on on iRacing. So, I mean, what was that like, dude?
Dude, Eldora, man, it's Eldora, dude. It's so crazy to say that I was able to race there, and very thankful for the opportunity. But I got a wall tap just in 3 and 4, kind of like how you would in iRacing. Not on purpose by any means, but it happened. Other than that, I mean, I gotta throw a few sliders. It's so fast paced and it's crazy compared, because iRacing. I mean, yeah, we're reaction time on iRacing is very, very small, but in a real car, trying to transfer it over all in the same way was really cool to experience and tough. It's a hard place to get a hold of, and hard place to be able to stay pinned for however many laps it was. But it was definitely a really cool experience.
What was it like? Like, whenever you first pulled out there, was there anything that kind of like was familiar to you because you've made so many laps there on iRacing? Like, how much of it transferred? Did any of it sort of like you point out, oh, this is how it is on iRacing kind of deal, or what was it?
I mean, so like the walls on like exits, like in iRacing, you got to be careful if you're washing out either exit a 2 or exit a 4 because it comes in. Well, that's true as well. It's why everyone kind of diamonds off of 4 there. You see him whenever you see those guys ripping a lip all the way out there. It's kind of sketchy, and it is. It is very sketchy. You enter 1 and 2, you can. In the feature there, especially, I was in there like a slider line, like just 1 lane off, kind of slide into it, catch it, and come back down, cut down, and roll one lane off the top and 3 and 4, or through the middle and on the bottom. I got to run the bottom at Eldora. That was that's the
Probably way
hardest bottom to
different
hit. Yeah, because
than on
you're so
iRacing.
yes, because I mean, there's a few times grazing the inside wall, not necessarily, but I know I was close, and yeah, it was a little. It's intense there compared to iRacing. Where iRacing, it's almost like easier per se, just because you're sitting in a chair, you're relaxed.
Right.
There's a reset button if you kill the wall, because if you do kill the wall there, it's not going to be pretty.
Well, that's awesome, dude. I was so excited that you were able to get to live that dream of so many of us that get to do iRacing, but you got to live the dream of actually going to race it. Probably the most prestigious track, dirt track at least. So that was really cool. But then we had another race on Monday. You got to race at Eldora on Saturday, and then we had Pro
Travel
Series
all the
on
way to
Monday.
Knoxville, Iowa.
Yeah, that's a tough haul.
Yeah, it was. It
Probably
was a
wouldn't
long
be.
Sunday.
Is that really a long haul, like in real life? If you went from
Not
Eldora to
really.
Knoxville, I don't think it would
I
be.
mean,
Ohio.
It's probably like 6 hours, 8 hours, 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah. Well, anyways,
You get to defeat Indianapolis.
we had Knoxville, and I was feeling pretty good going in. Honestly, like you would think that uh, that I would be kind of down in the dumps after how the race at Port went. The race at Port went. But I just kind of took the good and the bad from that and tried to learn from it. And we put a lot of laps in. I mean, we we said that last week about Port, but I feel like we really put.
We raced a lot of laps this week.
Yeah, we ran some officials, a lot of officials really. Um, Not compared to some, I'm sure, but we ran more than what we usually do.
Usually it's
And
0. Now
right. So, and then we did a lot of situational practice and making laps, and so I was feeling pretty good going in. I mean, were you feeling as good? I feel like you were.
I was feeling solid going in. The only worrisome is always just qualifying because it's so critical just to even hit a great lap. Started off the night decent in qualifying and put us in a decent position. Not the greatest start, and I know it wasn't necessarily just the line and qualifying. Monday night was very, very tight and critical to hit.
Yeah.
And I think we goofed up in 3 and 4 possibly, where we left a little speed on the table. But all in all, coming into it, I was feeling pretty decent, especially with our feature sets and the way we were working with Bocus this week and getting them things dialed. I was feeling pretty solid coming into it.
Yeah, I feel like we hit a good line. I mean, I was like 2/10 off the pace in qualifying. You were about a tenth off. I
Yep.
qualified like 25th. You qualified, or maybe even further back than that, but you qualified like what? Probably,
No, I think it was like 15th.
yeah, because you were starting fourth in one of the heats. But
4th in Heat 3, yeah.
I talked to Dylan Wilson about it, and it's like every single week of this Pro Series after qualifying, I feel like I've hit a good line, and no matter what the outcome is, I'm sitting there thinking like, what the fuck? Like last week at Port, I thought I had a good line, and I qualified on the pole, and I was like, what the fuck? And then this week at Knoxville, I hit what I thought was a pretty good line. Like I thought, like that might be good again, and fucking 2/10 off the pace. It's just kind of like I don't know, and that's what Dylan Wilson said. He's kind of been experiencing. So I set myself back a little bit in qualifying, but you started fourth in your heat. What happened in your heat? Anything you'd like to share?
Then the Heat race, let me think here. We started off 4th, went into 1 and 2. We were racing hard. Oh, I remember what happened in the Heat
Yeah,
race now. I know what you're referring to.
yeah,
Yes. Yes, yes. Went into 3 and 4 there. Was coming out right behind, who was in second? Augustine, I
yeah.
believe. It was second. And came off behind him, and I was feeling pretty good staying there with him. Jaeger was on the inside. And then we were coming back into 1 and 2 in the second lap, and Jaeger was on the inside. And I know what he wanted to do, and I was trying to keep him from doing that because every position matters in a Pro Series, and it's within inches of every time. And he tried to slide in there, and I couldn't check up in time, and it was just it happened so fast. I had nowhere to go.
And the
I
and the
think
quarter
either
panel
way
still not having enough
in the
give
quarter,
outward
yeah,
still
and
didn't help either.
because like I barely tapped him in a quarter panel, which necessarily in IRL I would have went under his quarter
Right.
panel,
It would have folded
but
out and then it would have yeah.
and it caught onto him, and then whenever I did let out at one point in time, it shoved the nose, and then it picked up his rear end and dumped him all the way, and
Right.
can't do nothing. I try not to, but after that, I set sails, caught back up to Augustine actually, with like 2 to go, threw a slide job and 1 and 2 on the last lap. Hit the berm, about killed myself, and as well as Augustine was a weapon a little bit, but had great speed in the heat race. I felt really good compared to what I was last week. And coming into last week, I was feeling pretty saucy as well, but overall was feeling really great on the night. Just sucks I got caught up in that ordeal with Jaeger. I hate to see that for him as well as just a bad spot for both of us. I know what he was trying. He was because the goal was to get in line there because it was going to be marble. in the heat race,
Right.
especially at least those first few laps. And I think his intentions were to slide at first, and then maybe after like halfway through, he like stopped himself because
Right.
we were cruising. I mean, I didn't lift for the first corner or the second and 3 and 4 or
It's
necessarily.
full tilt. I don't think
It
you
was
lifted the
full.
whole time, probably, other than for that.
That's the only time I lifted in the heat race. So and when you're racing like that, it's so hard to just get out of throttle, smack on the brake, then just a split second time, and you're racing with inches. And whenever he was going to slide up, I was going to be absolutely under, as close to him as possible, as under his left rear to protect myself from Bishop possibly getting back under me and getting a run and then sliding me back in 3 and 4, and then I'd be out of the transfer spot, which it's a tough spot, really, just racing wise. But and I see both sides of it, and it sucks, but it's part of it.
Yeah, especially like you said, just the way the track was and what everyone's trying to accomplish and how close it is. It was bound to happen with that kind of racing happening. Maybe you get lucky and it doesn't, but it was likely to happen. Hunt the Front Gaming gifted a tier 1 sub. Thank you. I'm assuming that's Jesse. Thank
Let's
you
go.
so much. Um, so that was your heat.
Yeah, right on.
My heat. You were heat 3 though, right? I was heat 2. But regardless, um, I started 7th because again a piss poor qualifying effort.
Squirrel.
Um, yeah, well,
No, that's right.
um,
We over there.
yeah, we've I feel like we've got a lot more consistent speed now, and now it's more on the driver, so that makes me feel a little bit better. Um, but yeah, so started 7th. Dylan Fox was having some internet issues on the outside row. I was on the inside, and right off the start, like that knocked 2 people back behind
Right.
me, and so I
He was
immediately
having packet loss problems. Him
right,
and his spotter were
right, and so I went in and who was that was behind me in the orange and bluish looking car uh
Zimmer.
Zimmer. Yeah, it was Zimmer. I had to slide Zimmer. In my mind though, I really thought I was in 4th, like dead ass.
Yeah,
And
yeah, this
it
is
was
true.
it
It's like
was
lap 4, he was like, "Oh, I'm not in the transfer." And we're like, "No,
yeah.
keep digging,
I'm
bro. Like,
I'm
let's get there."
yeah, we're full throttle and I'm just trying to catch Jesse Wall who's in front of me just to try to get another spot. Every spot equals starting 4 spots up in the feature. So I'm just trying to catch him.
To
Um,
make the feature.
well, I'm just trying to catch him to get you know third
Start
really.
start
And
12th in the
so
paint.
it was Evan leading and Chase Hardy and Robbie Buchanan in second and third, and their cars looked so similar, and they were running so close together in a line that I thought that there was 1, 2, 3 cars ahead of me. And then about midway through the heat race, they separate a little bit, change lines, and I go, "Oh shit, I'm in 5th. I thought I was in the transfer spot." And I went back and watched the broadcast. They had the camera on me. Uh like they had my
Oh,
video up
no.
and you can literally
No.
see me say that on the broadcast. It's
That's terrible.
hilarious. Regardless though, I knew it was like, okay, well, I'm not in a transfer spot, but I will be if
Starting the front row of the B
yeah,
main.
if I hold my position here, I should be starting front row pole of a B main. So that's what ended up happening. So then that put me pole of the B main,
The B main,
LCQ2.
yes. LCQ too.
Um, oh, and by the way, chat, this might shut down. We got some storms rolling through my house right now, so
Stop.
hopefully the power doesn't go out. But anyways, so LCQ2 started pole, St. Clair on my outside. Me and St. Clair have, I swear, it's like we're in the same race
Every time. You
every
guys are
week,
never not in the same race.
and we're always beside each other. But we made a setup call to hopefully get me a good lead, and then if it falls off, it falls off. But I've built a good lead. I didn't want
Me
you
and
know
Bocus had an argument
yeah
about this
it,
from heat 2 till the
yeah
beginning, probably about 30 seconds before you gridded. We were still arguing on what to run,
yeah
and we let Nathan decide. But it
yeah
was It was an argument for probably 30 minutes on what Nathan was going to run. We want to ever see everybody succeed. And
Right.
me and Bocus both believe in sort of different things, and I see one perspective, and Bocus sees another perspective. Neither one of us were wrong. It was just a matter of fact. I knew what Nathan was comfortable on, and I didn't want to hear the old Lightning McQueen meme again this week. So
Yeah. Well, the main thing for me was, starting on the pole, I knew that I had clear track in front of me. I wasn't really so much worried about the car not rotating. I had practiced that enough over the
yeah,
course of this week. I was like, this motherfucker is gonna turn for me, okay? Like I've figured that out. And it was kind of a toss up between a setup that's really fast early but has the possibility of fading late, or a setup that's consistent throughout, but that would kind of leave me susceptible to like
an
getting
early
caught up in a
pass
battle, right? And that's not
early
what I wanted. So ultimately, I decided to go for the setup that I knew was going to be bad fast for the first probably 7 or 8
8.
laps.
Yeah.
And it worked out exactly how I wanted it to, and I brought home the win. There's a meme that Robbie
Future
Swan made.
winner.
It's like Squidward from SpongeBob SquarePants holding up a trophy, and it's like last chance qualifier winner Nathaniel Waddle.
Last
I
chance feature winner, and then it had the
Yeah,
last chance scribbled out, and it
right.
said feature winner.
Uh,
Yeah.
that I talked to one of the iRacing employees, and he was like, "Man, I wish we would have had the camera, like your camera, up, because I jokingly, but also kind of not jokingly, did a little celebration, like I fucking made it in. I was just so excited to. I mean, I wasn't like, it's not like I really won anything. I was still gonna be
Right.
starting in the back, but I mean, come on, bro. It's 5 weeks in. That was my first time making a feature. I was kind of celebrating a little bit. So
It's
just
been a
happy to be
grind.
there. Just happy to be there.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
really gives you a,
It
a
was like
sense of
me at
appreciation
Eldora
for it.
Saturday. I'm just happy to be there, man.
Yeah. So then we had the feature.
Yeah.
Um, I started 18th.
18th.
That put me starting
I started
18th.
I started 11th.
Yes, you did start 11th. I feel like you faded a little bit early because I remember you.
We got caught up on the bottom a little
Yeah,
bit early, and was digging there because I was inside the top 10. I think I was 8th or 9th on like lap. Probably not. I pretty sure I passed a few cars, but I could be crazy. But we were digging on the bottom, and then at one point in time, I was behind Kendall Tucker. I drove it in a little deep because we were 3 wide. And then I had a guy on my outside kind of come down and get in the lane in front of me. There wasn't really room for it, so I braked out of it, and I lost a ton of ground and had to catch back up. And then for 30 laps there. I hopped in line behind James Edens. And then Logan Herbert was in front of him, and then Dylan Wilson was behind me, and I just
Robbie
rode.
Buchanan and
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us were just riding
I
at that
was.
point
I
in
was
time.
behind all of that. Like I was right behind Dylan Wilson for a majority of that. It was either Dylan Wilson or Robbie Buchanan, but we were just kind of riding for
Yeah,
the
and like
longest.
the pace wasn't crazy back there for us, and I know the guys up front were really going after it, especially early. And I get Heinz, you got to get up in front almost crazy, but the way I've been noticing in these races about how tire wear, how critical it actually is, especially late race,
And at the big
um,
tracks.
and at the big tracks, every percent matters. So I was really liking my position. I think I was riding 12th, and I was feeling good. I liked where I was at, and then got into a mess up. I should have went out of it. I was expecting on lap 35. It was me and Logan Herbert got into it. We were catching him, and he got stuck on the bottom, and Edams just got around him coming out of 3 and 4, and I'm kind of trying to tuck myself up behind Edens and get as close to Edens as possible so
To
that I could
prevent
prevent
right.
Logan from coming up. And we're coming out of 4 there. I got a decent run. Eden's got a hell of a run and really gapped him. And what it did, it created a little bit of separation. It was clear for I should have known it was coming, as a driver. And I'm pretty sure Brocus was screaming at me
He
just to
was. He was.
but at the time, like in the moment, I'm like, I thought I was at his right rear quarter panel, and now that I look at it, I was not. And he came up a little bit. I was there, tapped him a little bit, banged off the wall, came back down, went into 1 and 2, and caught his right rear, and I sent it into the fence, and we died. It was
It was
very tragic because
it was
I felt I was feeling so great about like the pace I was running, and I was just starting to cruise. Me and Eden's like once I got past Logan per se, I don't know if it would have been true or not, but once we would have got past Logan, me and Eden's were, and I think even D-Well, because we were all chugging there, especially around lap 30, and I think we would have went forward a lot, but that I just needed a little bit of more patience when it was said and done.
That's what I was gonna say.
I regretted what I did immediately, and it was just a bad deal on both parts. But when you're racing, especially like the laps were winding down. We had 15 to
Right.
go at the time. There was no yellows, so I'm thinking in my head, okay, if now's the time to go, I have to go.
It's time.
It's time.
And that's
So I'm thinking, well, if I have to battle if I'm faster than Logan per se, if I really was, because it could have been just like he got stuck on the bottom and he messed up one lap, so he got stuck down there. So he could have been still faster than me. But I personally felt like once me and Eden's got past Logan there, we were gonna check out and
Right.
catch the other group behind him, and we were gonna start picking off people because I was starting to feel pretty good on the bottom and I was feeling good all over, but patience would have been great there.
Yeah, you wanted to take the opportunity whenever it presented itself, but it
Yeah.
actually it hurt both of us.
It did.
Because I was in a similar position. I had kind of caught up to Robbie Buchanan, last week's guest, and I kept getting runs on him, and around about lap 35, I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to get around him here. And no shit, I throw the slide job. I go down all the way to the bottom, and I'm looking all over the place really. And then I come back up to complete the slider, and I look to my right, and there's fucking Logan Herbert coming down the track right at me. Like y'all had just wrecked, and I did everything I could to avoid it. He hit me right in the door. It told me it gave me wheel damage, but it was just, of course, whenever I finally decided to throw the slider. I mean, who knows if I wouldn't have, I still might have got caught up in it, but still, I was like, damn, I slid right up into it basically, or he was coming down just because of the impact or whatever, but gave me wheel damage. I still was able to claw up to a solid 12th place finish, but I know not the night that you wanted overall based on the finish, but it was good for me personally to finally get into a feature, and then do well in it. You know, not just kind of.
You still had a decent run. I mean, you finished 12th, which
with wheel damage. I feel like
yeah.
I feel like I had, and I kind of got screwed too because I had a position. I think I got screwed. I had a position before one of the yellows came out during those last couple of laps whenever we had those cautions. I feel like I had a position or two, and then I got put back, and I was on the bottom, and I was just trying to make anything work with the wheel damage. You know, not trying to make excuses, but I feel like I had a better shot before that. So whatever. Good week though. I'm happy with it. I think we're about ready to bring our special guest on. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's bring him on in here.
What do we think about Majula spitting out? Well,
we'll get
tough
to that.
Sometimes.
Chase, you got a copy?
How y'all doing?
What's up, dude?
It's the wild man.
Oh boy, look out!
It's the man himself, Party Hardy, Chase Hardy, the driver of the 99 Speed Ranch machine in the Pro Series. How are you doing, Chase?
Good. Just trying to get better at I-55 right now. I'm terrible right now.
Yeah. Well, you you and me both. I'm kind of struggling right now, but that's iRacing. You just got to put the laps in, and eventually you'll get there. So, second at Knoxville. I mean, dude, did you see that coming? Like, what changed?
No.
What changed, dude? Because I mean,
You were winning races too earlier in the week and like running well and
yeah,
pretty much everything.
but I mean,
Yeah, I got
no, go ahead.
like I honestly like at the beginning of the race I was telling the spotter, I was like, if I get a solid top 5, this is perfect. This is a win for me. Whenever like I was like fourth, I was like, oh shit, we might have something. I was like, oh boy, look out. I was like, and then they got each other. I was like, oh, this is even better.
So, I mean, what did anything change for you? Like, do you feel like anything that you did leading up to the race at Knoxville contributed to running second? Because, like, if I'm looking at it, you didn't make the feature at Volusia, you didn't make the feature at Fairbury. You finished 20th at Cedar. Of course, you got wrecked. I remember that. Then you got 12th at Port, and then you come out with a second place finish after, you know, not the best start to your rookie Pro Series season. I should point that out. But I mean, what changed? Do you think that there's anything to attribute
Honestly,
to it?
like I turned a lot of laps. I gotta thank Jordan Casey. He helped out a lot, and then Tanner a lot. Like they told me to run the line that you would think would be for you. Don't like when somebody tells you a line to run, don't do it. Like do what you think is comfortable, and just run that line and get used to it, and just hit it perfect. And I didn't hit it as perfect, but it put me to start third in the heat race and kind of helped. But I wanted to start outside pole at the heat race. I think I could have had something for Evan, but I mean, to start where I was and just maintained and rode for a little while, and then whatever all the craziness started to happen, and I got going.
Yeah, and it's almost better to be in situations riding like that, not racing, but just being there and being able to take the opportunities whenever you can and being able to slide in those gaps whenever you can and whenever you do and stay in front and you'll come out with the top 3 finish like you did and getting that heat race second place there was a huge from third to second. I know it doesn't sound like much, but it did at the end of the day where your starting position was and getting you starting up front and able to make the moves you could.
Yeah, like with this build, you gotta probably pretty much start in the top 3 rows to be able to get that win. Because you gotta, if you can start running fourth the whole race in the last 20 laps, and then start going, you can have something for the leaders. Because how this build is, it's like you just gotta be slow, but you gotta maintain your pace throughout the whole race.
Right, and they got to keep the tires under you. And a lot of guys at the beginning of this kind of pro series, like I've talked to a lot of people throughout, and beginning of the pro series, we weren't gonna like we kind of looked at tire wear as kind of as a joke per se, and we weren't really like worried
Yeah,
about it. And then we started racing a few races, racing a few more races, and now we're at the point where almost everyone in the field is now at the point where we're saving for the first 30 and no one's really capitalizing on the first 30 possibly by building something that's great but I don't think at the end of the day it may not even work because of how well these pro series guys are maintaining tires and how we are so well at keeping the pace per se. Like as for you, like being just know to ride there for such a long time, keeping your pace, keeping your tires under you, and kind of having to think about it kind of bothers me per se. But other than that, it's kind of cool seeing how something like that they put a lot of time and effort into it, like actually does play a factor.
yeah. Like it's like kind of like real life racing. Like, but I mean the tire wear is kind of a little goofy, but and it's close, but not close enough. Like the setups are definitely like a lot better.
Yeah,
You
and
can actually get dialed in, and your car can be right.
like me and Bocus have been noticing by just building, like we can actually find like a good what should be a balance and what
Yeah,
should kind of work, and it's not perfect by any chance. And I think possibly I would think that possibly a September update on just adjusting the tracks possibly, and I think this build could actually turn into something decent after. I
yep,
know a lot of people were really hard on it at first, but it is kind of it does lack a little bit right now, but it's getting better. And I think as we learn on it, and if the tracks change, I think the racing is going to be even better yet.
yeah. Like it's, I mean, it's 1 lane racing, but I mean, like some tracks, it's like actually 2 lane at the beginning. But when it's like Knoxville, I mean, it's always been slider line or
Yeah,
right around the top because it's just everybody has that speed and And
all
Pro
about
Series,
momentum.
everybody's pretty much got something fast and dialed in because they got one person that's usually doing a lot of laps or a couple people learning
Right.
stuff, trying stuff.
Right. And it's a grind, and especially not even from the setup point of view, but just from the driver point of view, I've noticed a lot by just making the laps, and I, I'm still not at where I should be at. I know I've been making way too many mistakes here lately, and I'm just not my normal self online, and I know what it's. I need to make the laps at the end of the day is what I need to do, and I need to start racing more. But to stay at the top level, like coming in to I-55 this week, there's a lot of guys, and I kind of even said it last week. There's a lot of people that I said were on the lookout for this possible upcoming week for like Knoxville.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of new guys shine, and you got a second place finish. Rumsey won it. Evan got third. Wait,
Yeah.
he got
Yeah.
Evan got third, and then D. Will 17th to 4th. He was right there with us and drove to the front, but I know everybody's saying it's a snoozer, but especially with these last 5 weeks coming up, I think things are going to start getting a little bit dicey. Even though
Yeah.
that there's some point spread throughout, but these last 5 weeks, I think the racing is going to get better. The cars, everyone's getting a little bit balanced. Coming in I-55, I ran 2 officials so far. The second one I ran with Nathan was pre-gen, and I think it was 100%
It was
slick,
horrible.
and it was bad.
Yeah.
But if anything other than that, like the first official I ran the other night, ran one Monday night, like 10:45 race with Bocus, and it was super racy. You could run the bottom, you could run cider, you could run the top. But I think I-55 just everyone transferring back over from a big track to a small track is going to change again, and I think you're going to have a lot more. You're going to have even different faces this week as well because everyone's got their own driving style, and you'll see some guys shine on the small tracks and some guys shine on the big tracks, and the guys that can maintain it have really been up front a lot, and you can see it in the points, especially coming into week 5.
So Chase, you're sitting 17th
Yeah.
in the points. So where do you know where you were before last week?
I think I was like 29th
Jesus.
coming into Knoxville.
Yeah.
And
So
that really helped out, like getting that second. And that kind of gave me a confidence boost on throughout the rest of the year. And
Mhm.
They keep digging.
like, yeah, like I-55, like the tacky speed, that's where I got to get better at. Like the back of my spoiler says, give her the goose, like
Yeah.
that's where I got to get
I've
better
seen it.
at. But like my race speed, I can kind of maintain and run the same laps as them. But the tacky speed, everybody can just be like the times are like
Right
that. Like
there. Yeah, it's
everybody's,
kinda like qualifying the other night. Knoxville was within, what, 2.5 tenths?
yeah,
Quick
like
time to
throughout the whole field. Like that's just crazy. Like old build, like everybody, like fast time would be like 2 tenths quicker than second place, and then third place it's like 3 tenths off. Like now it's like a tenth, half a tenth. It's like crazy.
and it's like, even like myself in Pro Series, like I feel like I entered in 1 and 2 in qualifying just a tick too high, and I think that was like at least a half a tenth,
Just
but
a
like
little.
how
Just a little.
critical the line is, even though it is kind of a sleeper, like the build in a way, but just kind of how the racing's been. But how critical the lines are to hit is unreal.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
especially like I-55, how tight the corners are. I mean, you're running 12-second laps, a little bit under actually if it's super tacky, you'll be in 11s. But like feature time, you're doing 12-second laps. It's instant. You're turning almost the whole time,
yeah.
and
You're pretty much sideways the whole track now.
it's completely different, and like to hit a line perfect every time on that track is gonna be really difficult, and I'm excited to see what the racing is gonna be like coming. We've had 2 small tracks. Fairbury's kind of tight, too tight in a way
Yeah.
to really have some really good
I
great
think they
racing.
need to get rid of that jump coming out of 3 and 4. I think it would be an actual good track
Yeah,
then. But
I think I've
but
heard move the tires too. I think they're actually planning on giving
I
us the
hope,
options of like different configurations of where the tires are on the track
right.
as different configurations, which I think could help. So you said that you're not feeling quite up to speed at I-55 yet. You're still putting in laps and everything. So what are you really expecting? Coming off of a second place finish. You said it gave you a lot of confidence. What are you expecting?
all right. Like honestly, like I want to be able to like Wotel kind of helps out a little bit, but like they don't really do the same track state, and the weather ain't really exact. But the day of, that's when I really practice, so I have something like I can just know what I'm gonna
Try
feel
and
when
get
I go right into it, instead of like last year whenever I got like racing and stuff like for the pro qual, I practiced the day of it, and it helped out a lot better than doing every day practicing, because I feel like I get burnt out of the track and I'm like don't know what to pick, what set up or
Right.
something, and I get confused on which one to run. And that's what fucks you.
That's honestly like the worst part, especially like from a builder point of view. Like just going like so I've ran 2 different races now at I-55 this week, and I've ran a different setup every time. Where almost whenever you're driving like that, like for like guys like Nathan, the day of is whenever you need to do it, because all you necessarily have to do is perfect the line. Just get the
Oh
line,
yeah.
get the line, get the line, get the line, because the line is probably 75% of the battle, and the setup's about 25%. And I know a lot of guys always say it's like, oh, it's not it's not the setup. But I truly think like it's especially coming up at I-55, a lot of it's going to be just how perfect can you be.
Yeah, like if you can hit the bottom, that's gonna be your like right above that crease, that's where it's gonna be in qualifying most likely.
Right.
Unless
And
if
then
they do a crazy pre-gen or
yeah, then you
something
could
goofy.
possibly well like the other night, I actually I ran middle qualifying, and I'm pretty sure Loic went top middle or top, I think it was top bottom, and he out qualified me. He's like 12.065. I had 12.084 or something. But that would be really cool to see. And but then the other pre-gym we ran, it was bottom, right above the crease,
The freight train.
every lap for 40 laps, and then qualifying heat race, yada yada. But I think if they could possibly work on a good pre-gen, or just let the track run out, because to me at Knoxville and the testing that we were doing, whenever we just ran the track out from 0%, the racing was actually pretty decent. It wasn't necessarily as wide as we wanted it to be, and I think that was just from lack of cars in the server. We were
Yep.
testing with only 4 or 5 guys, but I think 0% racing would have been the move almost at Knoxville. I'm not saying what they did was wrong. I'm not really complaining about it because it is what it is. You got to race on it no matter what. But I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a 0% track again, because just to switch it up,
Yeah,
because
like
we've been pre-genning here the last 3 races.
yeah.
For the
Yep.
And
feature, yeah, and the
yeah,
LCQs, I feel like they've done a pretty decent job
and I
of
think
the track where the past two, but they're
it's
working
helped
with
out the racing a little bit,
yeah.
especially in the heat races and the LCQs. But it's
Oh
hard
yeah, that
to pre-gen those and then run a 0% track in the feature, because then it's not going to get as wide as you want it to be.
yep.
On this current
But
build.
on this current bill,
Yeah,
anyway.
Yeah, like
I
the LCQs have been wild, like
yeah.
every weekend so far with the pre-gen that they've been doing.
And
Because I think
it's
it's
been
been giving it wide a racetrack for everybody to somebody can run the top and cut down or run right around the bottom on the berm. Like it was like good. Like
and
it
what's good
wasn't.
about a good thing about the pre-gens, I know it's kind of bad in a way too, but every pre-gen seems to be different. No matter if it's 50% 5 times in a row, it's going to be a
Yeah.
different 50% every single time. And I think that's what kind of like makes it a little bit better, because it's kind of the factor of you may have ran 2,500 laps on a 35% server, but you go back into it in the B main, it's probably not the same racetrack,
Yep.
and you
No.
have to adjust it. You have to be able to
On the
adjust
fly.
immediately, as soon as you go into turn 1 almost,
Yeah.
and you have to race around that, and then you'll see guys that can adapt really fast, like Majula started in the back of his B main and was up front right away, which
Not up
as he
front.
should. Yeah,
Up to third.
he got up to third. But and then you see some guys starting up front and they fall back kind of early, then they charge back up because they start getting back in a habit. But it does make it tougher, I think, and harder for the driver to guess what line it's going to be, how it's going to race. And I, for myself, like to kind of prepare myself beginning the race. Okay, if I'm here, this is what's going to happen. If I'm not here, this is what's going to happen. But whenever you're running the B mains and those pre-gens and those heat races, it's hard to say, oh, this is what's going to happen, because you really don't know.
Yeah. You don't. like because everything's different no matter what you do.
Yeah.
Now with this build,
I think they're doing as good of a job as they can working with how it's going right now. They definitely don't want to see, another Volusia or Cedar Lake race. So I understand why they're straying closer to the tackier side for the features. I do think both the worn in track, the naturally worn in track from qual, like practice qual, all the way through the heats. I feel like that was pretty decent. Um,
Yeah.
it probably could have carried on out without rubbering up, as we call it. But who knows? I did like the LCQ pre-gen. I feel like maybe that LCQ pre-gen probably would have been better for the feature
yeah,
than what they did for the feature. I think it was 55% for the LCQs, and then
Yes.
what did they reset it to in the feature? Like
35 or
20,
something.
30?
25, 35, something like
Yeah.
that.
25 maybe. Yeah.
But ultimately, they're working with what we've got right now. We've got kind of a build that isn't the best to race on, and it's rubbering a little bit. So I kind of get, why they're doing what they're doing. Uh,
And they're
Yeah,
doing a good job at it. It's just, I would hate to be in their shoes as well, almost hindsight, because it's tough. Like even like putting on like this fling and all those races, like to give the people a great racetrack is a lot harder than what you would think it is, because just there's a lot of these tracks that are pretty one lane dominant kind of right now, and it's you're trying to manipulate the racetrack to make other lines better, and it throws a little elbow in it, and the tracks drive different than they do whenever they're pre-gen than they are like from 0%, or like the cushion's
yep,
bigger, or the bottom's like juiced, or there's just a lot of different variations of it. And I think that's kind of like the simplest way to go about it, but possibly weather settings. I haven't really tested a whole lot of extremes, but
well, we don't
it,
really worry with that. We just test. We want to make sure that we're testing on what they're saying
yeah,
we're gonna get,
I
so
just
we just
test
go
Pro
with that.
Series, so that's what I do. But um, no, I think it's getting better, and I think I-55 has a lot of potential to be a pretty racy track. Even like if they pre-gen it and the bottom was juiced and the top had a little bit of pre-gen cushion, I think you could rip the cushion there and somewhat compete from what I've seen.
yeah. Like if you can, I think it's gonna be like whoever can have a good car where they can maneuver the whole track for that place because it's going to be the line's going to change throughout the whole race. Like
Right.
it might
And
go from slider line to top to bottom. You just never know because it's just that kind of track. Like I mean, like real life, that place is different. Like every time, no matter
right.
what they do.
And I think that's what's going to be like the trickiest part there is I've ran two different setups and I felt really great on the bottom and then I felt really great on the top, but I haven't found the middle ground. And I think the middle ground is going to win the race technically. And it should, because if you can adapt and run the top, run the middle, run the bottom, run slider, run cut down, whatever you want to do, you should be able to run pretty well. But it's going to be tough because you're turning the whole time in a way, and the corners
Yeah.
are tight, and like exit of 4 is super tight. Exit 2, if people are making it 3 wide, but it's tough, especially if you're on a top coming out of 2 and the wall kind of kicks in. But I think it's gonna be some elbows up, a little bit of beating and banging next week, but hopefully it's
Oh
not
yeah.
bad.
You
I
know
think
what? No, go ahead.
you good.
Well, I was gonna say I think it's time for the Plum Wild moment of the week, and I think we should all give our thoughts on this one. So
Oh boy.
our
Here it
Plum
is.
Wild moment of the week is gonna be what happened here, with a rare mistake out of Blake Majulis, in his heat race that ultimately kept him from making it into the feature. Um, I don't know if you can see it or not, Chase. I mean, you probably shouldn't be able to see it unless you're watching the stream, uh, but yeah. So what happens is, what starts all of it. Chase gets a run on Dez. Blake
Yes,
is sitting here in third. I'm sure
riding.
Blake riding, but I'm sure Blake is also kind of frustrated because he's
Yes.
used to being up front, right? And I'm sure he's starting to get a little impatient. Uh, Chase gets Chase is probably in kind of in the same situation. Chase is trying to battle for the win, trying to get around Dez, trying to
Because every
start
position
fourth,
matters,
right? And so Chase throws a slider on Dez. I thought this was going to kill Chase. Thankfully for Chase, it didn't. He was able to save that, and Blake gets a decent run off of that contact from Chase, and just really tried to capitalize on it, and I just don't think it was happening.
Right.
It looked like he wants to throw a slider here, and then he catches the inside berm.
Which
and
is
then
very, very easy to do.
yes,
And then,
especially in this new
That
build.
berm will get you. I noticed the berm with this build, you can't get on it as much as the old build now.
right.
If you get on it, it makes your car go like this instead of like towed on the right rear. And the old build, you could get on it a little bit, and then you still can kind of
Yeah,
gain.
it like picks up the right front.
Yeah,
And
instead
like
of picking
spins
up
you
the.
out. It's
Yeah, I
it's
don't know why it
weird.
does.
I've noticed it was doing it more whenever we were on our qualifying and heat race setups than it does
That's
like
'cause
if,
we were
if
on
you're
the
on the feature.
berm. When we're
Right.
whenever you're full
Right.
tilt on the
Right.
yeah, and I would imagine at this point in time, wherever he's entering 3 and 4 here, before he lets out of it, he is wide open. There is
He's in the
no doubt in my mind, and he's low on the straightaway,
Right.
which
Shallow angle.
Barbara's trying to protect. He's trying to go in there, and right about there, right whenever he's entering, he knows that he can't clear it, and he's trying to slow himself down, and it looks easy, but it's not. As soon as you catch it, it's game over. And I've noticed that even whenever I was testing a lot, I was getting very frustrated with 1 and 2.
Yeah, like the feature set, you can kind of get on it, but you still get that feeling of it doing that deal where you're gonna spin out, but you can kind of get it off of it and then roll the bottom and come off a little bit. But it's like it'll get you no matter what you try to do.
And that's what I noticed too. Like in the feature sets that I was running, like even if I catch it, like my left front would go up it, but it would kind of like my left rear would kick out a little bit, but like nothing crazy. But especially in, like when it was qualifying, man, and I was testing a bunch, like especially whenever I was testing on 0% before they released what the notes were going to be for the qualifying conditions, and I kept hitting that inside berm, and I actually hit the inside berm for the first 3 laps in practice at Knoxville, and I was not raging, but I wasn't a fan because every time that was what was happening every time I do it, and I
wish you can run it. That'd be pretty. It would make it another lane if you're. And
you could pick up kind of like what the sprint cars do. Even like some of the late model guys, like I forget who was that. Well, one year I think it was maybe Mikey Marler was. He has the left front on the or Ricky White
riding it.
One of them. No, his left front was on the berm.
Right, it's riding it.
And I was like, you can kind of do it like even in a modified, but there on iRacing is impossible. If you touch it on entry, you either get a death push or you spin out. There was like no in between from what I was learning. And
I stayed away from it for the feature. I wasn't getting near that damn thing.
See, I was especially early. I was hugging the bottom, and I got up there and got caught up there behind Kendall. And I forget who it was, but they came down in front of me and backed me up a little bit. But the bottom was digging, especially the first couple of laps there.
Yeah.
And but to hit the bottom correctly, especially like on entry 1 and 2, was so tough. And
you had to like enter a lane off, but you had to like
have
your left front attack.
Yeah, and then be able to come down the hill and get your left rear in on exit and have all the drive off. It was really tough. But other than that, the berm is just not my friend either. And
I'm sure Blake isn't a fan of it either right now.
Oh
no, that was
what they could do is paint it white, but it's not painted white on the real track, so it's kind of hard.
If they had us a little white line on the inside right before
because entering 3 and 4 there, you like especially whenever it's muddy like that, you can't tell really where it is. Like you can, but you
blends
can't.
in.
Yeah,
it's all the same color.
Because it's ramped up, because it's level and it ramps up, and it like I don't know. It took me like 100 laps to be able to just start hitting that line somewhat consistently.
Yeah, we found our turning point, like a marker really where we would turn in at to get the precise, like, where you're not off of it
Angle.
too far, but you're not gonna hit it.
You don't enter early enough and hit the berm. The same way as like Port Royal, you don't enter early enough and just kill the wall. It's kind of like the same.
Like you did in the feature.
Yes. Yeah, that was a cool one. No,
That was a hit.
we're gonna finish one of these races one of these days, and we're gonna get them.
You haven't. Have you Well, no, you haven't finished a race that you've made yet.
I can add it to the list.
No, you did. You did. You finished at Fairbury. You just finished 15th, but still. But other than that, you haven't finished. You didn't finish at Volusia. You didn't finish at Port, and you didn't finish at Knoxville. You didn't make it at Cedar. We got to step it up. All right, Chase has gotten himself a second place finish. All right, we've got to step it up, and we got to get up there with him at the end of one of these features. You know what I mean?
I'm ready for Eldora.
I am too.
I'm ready for Eldora. I think that's going to be a racy track. I think.
Yeah.
If they set it right,
but I don't know how racy.
I'm ready to rip the deck out for.
I hope it's right around the bottom.
That would be sweet.
Dale McDowell.
Yes.
Dale McDowell line.
You'll still find me up top, dude. I love running the cushion at Eldora.
It don't matter if it's 6 tenths off the pace. Nathan's gonna be ripping the deck out.
Oh, I love it at Eldora, and I honestly love it at I-55 too. I mean, I just hope we
this
keep.
This tough to run the top on too.
It is.
It's like the right front. It doesn't bottom out, but like the right front, whenever you get out of the gas, it like wants to pick it up and shove, and it's awkward.
And then if you hit the wall, there goes your right front.
And then your right front off the race car. Yeah,
that's going. Yep, and then you're done.
I wall tapped at Eldora and it didn't suck in my right front. So like I'm confused where like the physics came from. No,
he did it.
It's
in
probably
real
them damn stiff quarter panels, because I pushed my deck in probably 6 inches. But
it really is, and I think it's gotten a little better with this new damage model, like how it will give a little bit. It doesn't actually really show it all that much. Yeah, it does give a little bit, but we're still just pushing that limit so much that.
I know the spoiler damage ain't as bad now. Like you can have a little bit, but if you have a lot, then you're fine.
I was about to say, because if I get like that little bit, yeah, it's not bad. But if I get what used to be like what we would call stage 1, oh, you might as well go ahead and pull on in. Like that.
Stage 2, you might as well
bad.
just your lap traffic, dude.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
you'd be 2010 off.
And like even like Nathan with like wheel damage, he still finished 12th there at the end, and like he wasn't terrible. And it's not, which is nice. But whenever you do wreck now in this build, your right front or your left front comes off, and you.
I noticed, and like I noticed if your rear end breaks, it's even worse. Like it gets just like you have no traction, you're just going down a straightaway, wop bop bop bop, like. It's just, you might as well just pull in on the wall.
You could be testing at Knoxville with Nathan. You enter kind of like on the cush and 1 and 2, and your right front tire falls off. That was the most random thing. Didn't even hit the wall. I enter on the top, and the right front tire just came off.
That was a weird one. Like
Nathan forgot to tighten the bolts on it.
That's what it was.
Look, all right.
That's the worst feeling because like I had like no idea. We were racing like to practice. We were practicing like. Racing outside, yeah. Colin put in the.
He
only put three lug nuts on the tire.
Well, it was like what it was like right there where how sometimes
there's like a little bump on entry there that
on the outside.
Whenever the cushion's big, it like sucks you in. But whenever it's muddy like that, you can enter on it and cruise.
Cut down, right?
Yeah, and that's what I was doing.
Yeah,
and I did it like. Not as aggressive every lap, but I did it that one time, and I entered a little high, and the right front tire just decided to leave the chat.
Yeah,
it was great.
That's not good. It's a no-go.
No. Well, I think that'll just about do it. Chase, thank you so much for coming on today.
Yep.
Congrats
the Winchester
again.
Wild Man, everyone.
Yeah, party hardy. Thank you so much again for coming on. Congrats again on a second place finish at Knoxville, man. That's a really great run, and we hope you have a good rest of the season.
Oh, we'll see what happens. We're going to I-55. It's going to be bad probably, but
hey, just keep digging. Just keep party hardy. Just stand on it.
That was a win for me last weekend. So.
Oh, absolutely. That'd be a win for me. I'd be tickled. I'd be like, I'd retire again.
I didn't expect that to happen. I was like, we're fourth. JD was kind of like not like fast, but I was like, he was blinking everywhere. So I was like, oh God, this ain't gonna end well. And then the backstretch, he was like in my carburetor. Like,
Yeah.
surprised the car didn't miss down the backstretch after that. Bad deal.
Well, all right, Chase.
But,
thanks for coming on, buddy.
Yep.
All right,
See
we'll
y'all.
see you around, buddy. Well,
You know, one last question for you, Nathan.
okay.
How are your nerves
Okay.
going
All right.
into the B main
All right.
starting pole? You know,
Is this a legitimate question or not? Because in case anyone's wondering why I'm acting like this, apparently I've
never been on
asked,
live television before.
apparently I have asked everyone that came on this podcast,
How
how
are
are
your
your
nerves?
nerves at some point? And I know I have, but apparently I've done it too much. And both my wife and Kiefer here have been giving me a ton of shit about it. So that's kind of I think that's why he asked. Is that why you asked, or are you legitimately wondering?
Me and Hannah had an agreement that I was going to ask you.
You were gonna ask it, yeah.
And I like forgot during the time of it, but
Mhm.
now I remembered, so it still counts.
Well, to answer your question, I wasn't really nervous at all. I knew I was in a good spot. I knew I had the good setup. Just had to get that lead and go. I was just the teensiest little bit worried about getting the car rotated into one.
Terrified. Beginning of that heat race, I was terrified.
And you know,
not because of the turn. That was not because of the turning. It was because of the conversation, like when me and Bogus were talking about it. I would have felt awful if that wouldn't have worked.
If it fell off and I got just freight trained, dude.
I would have probably. You don't want to know. He uses nipple cream.
Yeah.
Actually, I've seen it on his counter.
iRace VR is wondering what the skincare routine. It's all in the nipple cream, dude.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was gonna say the freaking announcers for the broadcast brought it up like 3 or 4 different times about how I had the pole, in the palm of my hand and then basically pissed it away last week. So
they probably saw your TikTok,
Possibly.
Yeah.
If y'all haven't watched my TikTok, you need to watch that. That's a pretty funny one. But
he's a big Cars guy and he thinks he's hilarious. But
yeah, Lightning McQueen. Yeah, Kachiga. All right, Thunder.
Win.
I think that's about enough for this one. This was a pretty good episode, I think but no, legitimately I think we got a pretty good piece for I-55. We just got to put the laps in. We've kind of seen the fruits of our labor pay off a little bit these past 2 weeks whenever we've really grinded it a little bit. So, just got to
won't be able to grind a lot this weekend personally. Got the girlfriend coming into town. Things are going to get serious.
Things are going to get serious for sure.
Racing Sunday.
What about Rocket League?
It's not after tomorrow night. There's no Rocket League until Monday after Pro Series.
You're going to have to.
Well, I'm lying. We're going to play Rocket League before Pro Series.
Yeah, you're going to have to. You're going to have to answer to Hannah for that. About the no Rocket League, but that'll do it for this episode, I think. Did you have one last thing you wanted to say? It seems like
1, 2, 3. I slay the streets. XDs is confused on the win, and I just think it's funny.
Oh yeah, win. I think that's a good one to go out on because you can't haunt here, dude. This place is already haunted.
You can't haunt here. This place is already haunted. Wait, what's the other one? Wait, I'm thinking.
What is it? Do the roar?
The what? Yeah, do the roar.
All right. Well, we'll see y'all next week. Cheer us on.
I am confused.
Monday night.
I'm confused actually. Oh, sorry. It's time for Rocket League.
It's time for Rocket League. We'll see y'all in the next episode. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see y'all around.